so I will call the meeting to order at 10 o'clock. Hi, Mary Kay. Sandra, would you mind doing the roll call?
Sure. Anita Brown.
I'm here.
Britta Dorsey.
Present.
Mary Kay. Is she here?
Yeah, she's online.
Here.
Okay. Josephine.
Here.
Here. Charles.
Is
he
here?
here?
Well. Yeah, he's here.
He's here. Jocelyn Lewis.
Yeah.
Very enthusiastic. Emma Ritchie.
Here.
Kayla Morris. Kayla.
I saw her.
I saw her too.
Yeah.
Kayla's here. Okay. Sandra Osborne is here. Monica Riley is here. Jennifer Steffi.
Yes, here.
Here. And Christy Witten.
Yes, I'm here.
You're here? Okay. And then from the State Library, we have Ruth. Anybody else from the State Library?
Me, well, and Jocelyn.
I already have her.
Yep.
And do we have any guests? Is Sarah here?
I don't see Sarah.
Anybody else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think everybody else is committee.
Okay. Did I miss anybody? Okay. I think we're good.
Thank you. Thank
Sure.
you, Sandra.
Sure.
Does anyone have anything to add to the agenda before we approve it?
Monica, did we need to, I don't think I saw it on there. Do we need to do the officers this year since it's the first meeting of the year?
Isn't that usually in summer, like June?
I was thinking, yeah, that's
It's in
third
June.
quarter,
Okay. Okay.
second or third quarter.
Because I think the new officers maybe take office July 1st, maybe.
Okay. No problem.
After the executive committee elections and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good thinking, but no.
Okay. But if you are thinking about that you want to be secretary, you have until June to think about that.
Or chairperson.
Or chair.
That does, however, bring to mind, are there open positions that will need to go on the ballot for the membership? I don't think so. This is kind of one of those committees that can be added to. And
Yeah, we don't have like a set number of
right,
members.
exactly. Okay.
So do we need to vote to approve the agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All in favor of approving the agenda as submitted, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, agenda has been passed. Sandra sent out the December minutes, I think last week, and they are appended to today's agenda. Does anybody have any comments, questions, corrections? I will say, Sandra, that in number 3, you misspelled Britta's last name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But it
Sorry
looks like
about
it's
that.
already been fixed, right?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the original from last week, so
Yeah.
never mind.
Oh, I found it.
Well, I'm sure you did, but I thought it would be nice if you didn't
Yeah.
have to report it yourself.
I suggested the edit. It's okay.
Okay.
My
Thank you.
apologies, Britta. Sorry about that.
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Anybody got anything else on the minutes, or have a motion to approve them?
I'll motion to approve. Britta.
Thank you, Britta.
I'll second.
Thank you, Christy. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the minutes will pass as stand. State Library report.
Honestly, I was not anticipating that Keith was not going to do that today. I thought it was going to be, but We have been, let me start at the very beginning. So as you noted from the email, Lynn is no longer with the state library. And so to fill up the spot for system admin, we have a support contract now in place with Equinox, which if you have been with Evergreen long enough, that used to be the case way back in the day. And we're very happy to have them working with us again. They also are providing migration support for Porter County. We have also been in busy mode in terms of making sure whoever just got back in. The migration, also dealing with the database issues that happened right around the time that Lynn left. I kind of put those together. They don't actually, her leaving didn't cause the database issues. But those have been resolved as well. There are a couple lingering things that we have taken note that have to do with the MARC batch uploader. And we're trying to determine if it is solely with acquisitions or if it is also with the traditional Vandalay. So if you have any comments about that, please email Keith about that, just so that we have as much information as possible. Yeah.
It is with the traditional as well.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. It was with both of them. But from what I was hearing, there was kind of this focus on acquisitions, which actually plays off of the traditional one. It uses the same functionality. So thank you for that. I will definitely report back on that. We are all Porter County all the time right now through the their launch, which is March 22nd. There will be a cataloging freeze, probably definitely beginning on March the 17th, when Bob begins loading their records that they're going to have their final extract. It may not actually go into effect until the evening of March the 17th. We're trying to keep that as small of a cataloging freeze as possible, but it will very likely extend about 3 days to get all their things in. After that, into April, and I've had this conversation with multiple people that I don't know who all in here. After that, there will be a deduplication process run on the database. That will be in early April, potentially right at the end of March. There will be another cataloging freeze for that as well, and that will be to accommodate. We've had actually several migrations since the last dedupe process. And then with Porter County bringing on, I believe, if I'm remembering, I have many numbers going around in my head, about 250,000 bibliographic records that are coming in from Porter County. I know they have 440,000 item records. So that will be probably a 2-day process for that deduplication. And then we're going to get an extract from the bibliographic database to send to MARChive for authorities work. It won't be the full bibliographic database, but it will be pretty big because it's been a while since we've done it. So those are kind of the upcoming things for Evergreen that are going to really affect cataloging. Yeah. Is there anything that you want me to tell you about that I have not told you about?
Will it be a full cataloging freeze?
Yes.
Or
It
full?
will
Okay.
be full. Yep. Both of those will be full, the deduplication as well as the Porter County migration.
Okay. And the deduplication's in April?
That's correct.
Awesome. Sorry, my brain is so fried.
No worries. No worries. Yep.
If nobody has any other questions for Ruth, then we can talk to Ruth about the training subcommittee.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot right now, other than I've been doing training. It hasn't been for everybody in the consortium, but that is not, of course, fallen off my radar. That would be silly. I've been spending a lot of time also on the acquisitions training manual that is further down in the agenda. So that's what I have for the subcommittee. Again, if you have any questions about anything. I will say one of the things that I have been getting a lot of notable contact about is there's been a kind of little surge of turnover in cataloging departments across Evergreen, Indiana. And there have been some very novice level catalogers coming in who don't have any education whatsoever in any form as far as cataloging goes, other than they've seen somebody else do it. And so I have been encouraging their management or whomever is appropriate to utilize the ABLE courses from the Idaho Commission on Libraries. They have a tech services sequence that is for somebody coming in just learning about what tech services is, what cataloging is, and really is a step before they start learning about cataloging in Evergreen and the ILS and things like that. They need to know some level of the fundamentals of what cataloging actually is. And so that's where I have been sending them. And it's a really good tool. It's a kind of more conceptual, which is what it needs to be at that point, as opposed to technical in software. That's what I have about training.
Are you the one that added parts team to
I am.
this? Okay, I was gonna say, because that wasn't there.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so you're in charge of talking about that too.
Yeah, so just a reminder that there is a small group of experienced catalogers in the consortium who have had added permissions or added working groups they have had working groups added to their staff accounts. Jennifer, I have just done this for you, and I'm so sorry that my communication with you has been terrible. And so we have right now Josephine, Jennifer, Steffi, Britta, and Monica, who have expanded working locations so that when they're working on parts, they can look at updating parts when appropriate for more than just their local library. So there is that. And that's all I have for that.
Well, can I recommend that you share at least with the committee your bucket for things that need to be reviewed, because I've been putting things in that when they're questionable. So if everybody could be throwing things in that would be useful.
And also, it would be appropriate at this point after the meeting as well to share that bucket I believe it would be appropriate, to the cataloging listserv, so that catalogers at other libraries can go into that bucket and see if they have things on there. At some point when there's the bandwidth to do so, I can actually contact libraries directly and say, hey, you have a record in this bucket, can you do? But I don't right now. I don't have that bandwidth. Right. So, and this is the record buckets. Let me. Okay, and so it's going to be that bucket ID 267-7062, and that is a shared bucket, so you can go in there and see what's in there, and if appropriate, update some stuff.
Or add things, add
yeah.
records to it if you think they need changed or fixed.
Yes, please add things to it.
Britta did put the number in the chat, the bucket number in the chat.
Thank you, Britta. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and close it. That's
Okay.
it for cards.
Alrighty, then we will move on to unfinished business, which the first thing is the local thesaurus. We discussed last time the new terms Christmas stories, middle grade, and library of things. We were supposed to mull those over the last 3 months and then take a vote. And then Emma had some procedures that she had written up, and we were going to review those and vote on those as well. Does anybody have any discussion before we, discussion or questions or anything before we move to a vote?
Sorry, brain. I hesitate to create any sort of, I support the idea because I think it would be helpful for many libraries, but I hesitate to create a heading for like middle grade or for like an age range that can be defined so differently among everyone. So like the items like Christmas stories, because it's not truly authorized heading, and like library of things, I think since those aren't affected by that, I think those I will vote for those. I don't think the middle grade would be appropriate as much as it would be helpful.
I would agree with that personally.
I can't vote, but I also agree. My 2 cents.
I agree.
I agree as well. It's too, it's not defined enough.
And the chat is looking like they agree too. So so it's looking like middle grade is too subjective. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions, comments about Christmas stories or library of things?
Christmas stories, is that for a 655?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I'm for that one.
These are all genre terms, right?
Yes.
Library things and Christmas stories.
Yes.
655. Okay.
Does anybody have anything else to say? Can we vote on these as to just accept Christmas stories and library of things and do that as a single vote? Does anyone have a problem with that? Mary Kay made a motion that we accept Christmas stories and library of things as genre terms.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Christy. Okay, all in favor of accepting Christmas stories and library of things into the EI local thesaurus as genre terms, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Ruth, I'm not sure if you are the owner or Keith is the owner of the Google Doc that has our local, the document that's linked there. Can you?
We're joint owners.
Can you update that?
Yeah.
You don't have to now, but.
Yeah, I don't have an ID for him yet, so I will.
Thank you.
Actually, I will update them a little bit, but.
I'm in a meeting right now.
And Emma, do you have the procedures that you had written up? I honestly don't remember them.
Yes, let me just quick pull up my Google Doc here. I'm sorry, my brain is just, I'm like working off like 4 days worth of like 4 hours of sleep, so.
You never have to apologize for anything like that.
Yeah, at this point, my brain is just so dead.
Do we want to add any kind of scope notes to these? Any kind of definitions for what we actually mean by library things.
It might be a good idea to do it for that.
I think that's a good idea.
What they are, I don't know.
Right, I was gonna say, is
You wanna
that,
write
I don't know
one,
if that's
Sandra?
something
I
that we
mean,
can do right now.
We all know what library things is, but I think coming up with an actual definition, scope note would be good.
I would agree with that. Does anybody want to volunteer to do that? Maybe, because I think that that's going to take a few minutes, and maybe someone brings that back to the next meeting or emails it to us in the meantime.
You can do it.
Was that
Thank you,
that said
Emma.
that?
Sorry, who said that they wanted to do it?
Emma did.
Emma, okay, great.
Thank you, Emma. And if you want to just email us and see if we can give feedback, that would be great.
Yep, let me put that in tasks. So that I remember to do it.
Okay.
Maybe even like Christmas stories too, because it should be actually the holiday of Christmas and not just like snow in December. And
Oh, you're no fun.
well, you know,
You'd think you were a librarian or something.
All right, that's on my list. And I shared in the chat the link for the procedures.
And I believe that that's also linked at the bottom of the agenda. Down here, procedures chapter. I'm sorry, I don't know
Oh,
why
yeah,
that
there we
didn't
go.
occur to me a hot second ago before you started having to run around for it.
So looking at this, it says the source code's EGIN, and I looked at what's already in the system, and it's actually EGING. Looking at the ones that Anna set up.
I know we discussed this.
I think we
There are
discussed
two.
it.
There's the subject is the EGIN, I'm sorry. And then the genre is the EGING.
Yeah, and I feel like, didn't we opt to get rid of the G and just do EGIN for all of them?
They're still in there, and that's how they control. I tested it the other day. So something has to be changed within the thesaurus itself. I'm not sure how to do that.
And this is a thing too, I've been struggling to get it to work correctly. I have the permissions and it hasn't, so that may be something that I need to escalate with Equinox as well to make sure that they're loading appropriately. I also think that there were some things during a time period that were perhaps not put in correctly.
I think that's what happened too. And this was all one person doing it, and
it was not Anna.
And no roadmap on like how
Right.
we get there. So
We'll get it figured out.
We'll get it figured out, but we need to look into that.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, are we still doing the EGING?
Or do we need to table this procedure until you guys figure out what you need to figure
I
out?
think so. Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, I would say people can still use it because we can
Just put
find
the-
them regardless of which one you use. They're pretty easy to find in the catalog. So once we get it figured out, we can retroactively go back and fix them. So I don't want people to not use these terms because,
Yeah, I think you should
This is
definitely
up in
use the
the
terms and we'll get them. We will get the new ones added in and then do our best to make sure that it's all dialed in correctly. It just was not the last time, which was about a week and a half ago that I got in there and I didn't have the time to devote to really kicking it hard.
then if since the terms aren't yet in there.
Yeah, I think the policy does need to be tabled.
Yes, can someone move to table it?
I will.
Thank you, Emma.
Second, Anita.
Thank you, Anita. All in favor of tabling our procedures for the 650s and 655 local terms, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We can table those indefinitely, I guess, until everything gets in place.
So keep using the terms though, right? Just
Yes,
Okay.
keep using the
Awesome.
term.
Well, but we can't use them until they're in
They're
like they
in.
put.
They're
Oh, are
in,
they?
We just don't know what code is supposed to validate them.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
misunderstood.
they're in the thesaurus right now.
Oh, okay.
But some of them seem to be validating with different codes and they're just kind of messed up. So go ahead and use them and use whichever code we can find them.
Okay.
Once we figure it out, we'll go
And
back.
I'll
and
add
fix
these new genre terms after the meeting.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, then I think we can probably move on to the cover art uploader policy. I don't know. My guess is that's not been top of your priority, or Keith's priority
I literally
list.
put something together before the meeting. So if you want to take a look at it, this is as draft as can be. And so in terms of the policy, I don't know that it is really a policy. It's more of a procedure. And so my thought was that it could go into the procedures guide and I mean, similar to like the way that we do parts, they are procedures that people are required to follow. So if you want to take a look there, and then I did link the instructions into the catalog. And I think the important thing, honestly, is probably this replacing of cover art at the bottom that says only replace it if it's actually wrong, not just if it is a different graphic image of the same thing.
I have seen a few, and it's been a long time, but in my experience, I've seen a few where it's just a bad picture, like it's a bunch of snow or lines or whatever. Yeah. So
those, yeah. Do you want me to address it directly in the procedure?
Well, I don't know. That's what I was going to say. Maybe just because right now you're saying it's just for a different title, but maybe saying that there's something wrong with, it is something wrong with the current image. I don't know.
I've also seen them where they've scanned the spine and it's just a really long and narrow image that takes up half the screen. So that is one I would definitely replace with something else.
So I just added a little thing in there that says, or very low quality.
I think that's fine.
And I don't know what I was looking for recently, but came up with like image after image that was the photograph of a book. Okay, fine. But then it had a barcode for a library on it.
Oh.
I was like, so those kind of things, I would consider those very low quality as well, where they can go to the internet and get a picture of the actual cover to upload. But I think that not getting too overly prescriptive with it is probably the way to go. And if people have questions, they can ask. Yeah. Because then it will come down to a subjective decision on, well, yeah. But by and large, y'all and most catalogers are competent, are going to know. And they're not going to want to waste their time anyway. They have other things to do.
I gotta say, I've been enjoying uploading pictures. I've done in the past 2 weeks, 25 between
for your
science
library
kits,
of things.
well, between science kits and then puzzles.
I love it.
So I had to redo like 4 because when I put them in, it was like, oh, nope, that's not right. So I reloaded a different picture and then waited. And the next day I would look and it's like, oh, that's so much better.
No, yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's great too, that you're actually providing quality assurance on your own stuff, saying, "Oh, nope, not,
It was like the
that's
one
pretty
was,
bad."
I don't know whether it was because it was like cocked the puzzle was cocked sideways and it was one of those that had the pieces that was coming out of the puzzle. And
Yeah.
it was like, oh no, that's just nasty.
Yeah.
So I found a different picture and did it, but it's been enjoyable uploading pictures.
This has
I
been a
know
good feature.
Bob
I
probably
like it.
appreciates that I don't text him. I think my top record one week was 52 pictures that I asked Bob to attach to files. And
Yeah,
I'm sure he didn't appreciate me.
I think it's kind of like digging holes in sand though,
Mhm.
where you keep digging the thing and it just keeps filling itself back in. So anytime that Bob would have saved for that, we found other things that just fill that in. So he
Mhm.
might not have had time yet to actually realize
Yeah.
that he appreciates not doing it.
But I know that the patrons notice them because after we uploaded the ones for the new puppets, oh, the kids would be like, oh, look at that picture.
I love it. That's
So.
fantastic. That's what we want.
Yeah, I have one of my catalogers going through and adding pictures to the stuff that we own, and it's super nice. I add them sometimes when I'm cataloging, but
I gotta
Well, you
admit,
have other
Ruth, though,
things to do. Yeah.
I cheated. I don't do the math myself. I just got an aspect ratio on Google and plug
that's
it in
fantastic.
and it changes it for me.
I was
don't
going to
have
say,
to do
whatever
that.
you need to make your job work is exactly what you need to make your job work.
can you send that to me? Because I haven't been doing a whole lot of aspect ratioing because I can't figure out how to do it.
Okay, I'll send the one I have bookmarked on my
Awesome,
computer.
thank you.
Mhm.
I've just been like
And-
uploading them and then just like checking the quality, like when I like reload the page and making sure it looks good.
Yeah, I had
And
the
if you want to
systems.
put that into chat, that may be something we have as like a suggested tool in this.
Okay. I also had our systems person put GIP on, which was, I found fun after you showed us how to do it. So let's see if I can pull that up.
Cropping people. Cropping. Cool. All right. So is there anything else that you think that should be added to this procedure? And do you think that it's a good idea to include that suggested link? I mean, I'll vet it in terms of whether it's going to mess with anybody's website, or anybody's computer, but obviously you've been using it, Christy. So. If there are no more suggestions, can I include that in the procedures guide?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Calculateaspectratio.com. Very specific. Very nice.
I just change it to 5 and 8, and then I just plug my little first number in and the second number pops in and I'm like, yep, this is good.
Awesome.
I don't have to do math. I was good. I was a good math student, but I don't like math. So
I was a terrible math student. I somehow managed an A in college algebra, and I'm convinced that's the only miracle I will ever get in my entire life.
I'll think about how I want to do that when everybody's not watching my screen.
Do we, well, but we probably need it in there because we probably need a vote for.
Oh, that's true.
To put it in there. So you probably are going to have to anyway. I'm sorry.
That's
If you
okay.
want it in there.
There.
Maybe say a useful tool.
Yes. Thank you.
or can be found at. Oh, there you go.
My prose is amazing today.
Would anyone like to move for us to add this to the procedures guide?
I'll motion, Britta.
Thank you, Britta. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Christy. All in favor of adding Ruth's wording about the cover art uploader to the procedures guide, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Thank you, Ruth. Maybe we'll let you decide what's a good page portion to put that in, insert that into the guide.
I can send an email to the committee about my proposal, and then
Okay.
if we hear back, then and I'll do that.
Okay. Then we ought to be able to move on. I lost my agenda to subfields and series statements. I think that personally, I think that this is probably something that we need to drop off the agenda until Lynn is replaced. I assume this isn't something that we want. Is it Emerald or Equinox
Equinox.
to help us with it? What do other people think about this?
Can you refresh me exactly what this is?
It was, I discovered it when doing my series project. Certain subfields, like a delimiter S for like audiobook or something, it creates a new
Series entry.
entry so that so that your audiobook series and your book series aren't grouped together. So we were trying to find a way to
ignore that subfield S.
But I'm not actively working on that project right now, so I'm okay with tabling it.
Is this something that instead, because we kept waiting for Lynn to do some research on how it worked and see if we could change things. Is this something that instead we should approach from a policy standpoint and tell people, and we change the policy to say that it is not okay to use ones that have a subfield S or subfield L or anything like that? I don't know.
The problem is that it is an actual thing.
Okay.
It is correct cataloging.
Okay.
Yeah, they're authorized headings.
They're authorized. So the
Okay.
best, and I mean, we could say that, but I think they're still going to come in the catalog, because if you're bringing them in through Z3950 or something, if they're in there, a lot of people aren't going to notice that one subfield S in that field.
Jocelyn, I think that if you understand exactly what is happening here, and I have an idea, but I haven't seen it.
Yes.
We can have a conversation at some point, because there's no guarantee that the person that comes in to the MIS supervisor is going to have the necessary skill set to do system administration for Evergreen. And we will likely continue on with Equinox doing those types of development system admin, that kind of little conjunction right there. And so and we also have support with them right now. So there really isn't any reason not to include that in the list of things for them to address.
And you also have all of the Porter County documents coming in, or records coming in, that probably include those subfields.
They don't use 800 tracings, so we don't have to worry.
We're going to talk
that.
about Porter County.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, how exciting.
I love the sound of shock.
Spoilers.
Oh, but wait, there's
you guys
more.
Sucked the oxygen out of the rooms you're in, didn't you?
I have my diffuser going right here and coffee right here, and everything is wellness in my little environment right now.
La 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 la. Hands over your ears.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So you might as well wait until they come in.
So
I guess I would make a motion to wait if you need a motion.
Yeah,
to
we've
table the
definitely-
subfields
we've
discussion.
definitely got to table this one. There's
Yeah.
nothing we can do about it right
Yeah.
now.
Okay, so Anita made a motion to table this indefinitely, I assume, Anita.
Okay.
Is that correct?
Yeah, it's fine with
Yes.
me.
Can I have a second? Oh, Mary Kay seconded. All in favor of tabling the series problem, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on to mark templates. Ruth, do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So I have linked here the folder to our working document. If you can't access that, I can change the permissions. But you can see within that folder the templates that we have right now. These are the just working Google Docs. You can see there's a comment in here about something to be changed after it loads. Oh, you know what? I'm in the wrong thing. Am I in the wrong thing? No, I'm in the right thing.
No, that's the right one. You just already changed it.
Yes. Oh, right here. So, and then I can just add that. One thing that I would like to do right now, people who have a link, with the exception of Britta, obviously she added a thing, and I think, I'm not entirely sure you all. That you can suggest changes to them or additions or whatever. And I would recommend, one thing that has not been updated in these yet is the K subfield and the other one for the fixed fields based on the OCLC format. You can see it's still in here. And then I also, well, we'll talk about that down the agenda, but I have added a copy in here. This one needs to be heavily edited for the combo pack. So, and then if we can have a designated cutoff date for these to be edited, we can have them all reloaded into Evergreen as XML files and have access to them actually through the Create Mark.
Is
Interface.
Equinox gonna be the ones who upload this, or can we do it?
Bob can do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be nice to have them updated before. That's probably not gonna happen though.
My recommendation would be the end of April, just because we have so many things on the calendar prior to that. I know that's kind of a womp thing, but.
Well, and it's not like we can't make changes later if we discover more things that need to be changed.
Right.
Yeah, I think end of April is good.
Say that one more time.
I think end of April would be fine.
Yeah, I can make that work.
Okay.
Okay, then we can move on.
I don't know that there's any voting to do for that.
Yeah.
I know of. Okay.
Yeah. Does anybody have any other questions or comments about that? Okay. So moving on, I will say I put I did this, I'll put this on the agenda, the enhanced 505 for 700s for collections of short stories. And I put it on there because we tabled it in December, and on December's agenda, my name was on it, and I honestly have no idea why. So if anyone knows what we're supposed to be talking about, please. Oh, Emma, thank you.
It's me. All the problems on this agenda are me. Sorry, guys.
Not a problem. It's topic.
This came up. So our previous tech services assistant manager had told us to do enhanced 505s for collections of short stories by different authors. Because Evergreen, when you do the 700s, it puts them all up in the author bar, and it makes it really cluttered. So we've been doing just the extended 505, where you can do the title and the author, and it makes it all searchable, but it doesn't clutter up that top bar by adding all those 700s. And it occurred to me a couple months ago, I'm like, I'm not 100% certain she consulted anyone about that. So I had wanted to verify.
When you say she, are you talking about Lynn making those 700s not show up in the top?
No, just
No.
using the 505 versus the 700.
Oh, talking about your assistant director.
Yeah.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I mean, the only difference really is that the enhanced 505, the authors are not entered in their authorized state.
Right.
Yeah.
So they won't link up with other things they've written because you won't be able to click on them and see what else they've written. That being said, I usually see enhanced 505s anymore with no multiple 700s.
Yeah, that's how we've been doing them at my library, and I do all the fiction, so.
I believe, and some of you have been on the committee for several years, like I have, I believe that those 700s that you're seeing displayed at the top of the screen haven't always been there.
I was gonna say, can we
I think that
suppress those?
I think Jason moved those 700s to the top of the screen at the cataloging committee's request.
Yeah.
And
I think
why
for
was
like
that, Jocelyn?
actors and stuff, like for a DVD, the actors and things are
Right.
in the 700. So if you want to see what, Ryan Reynolds has been in, you want it up higher.
But you can still, but that's once you're in the individual record. I mean, you can still search Ryan Reynolds and come up with the things that he's in.
Right, in my mind.
Without it
I think that at the
displaying.
time the committee was interested in having, because there's a lot of good information there, but it was all hidden down at the bottom of the record.
Yeah,
and I
'cause
think the committee wanted it to be more visible.
And I think that was mainly for AV materials because
I think you're right.
What goes in first is usually the director, and a lot of people don't care who the director is. Suppressing them if it's a book type, I mean, we theoretically could, but we're getting into that like kind of
that gets into a pretty
a lot
type of thing.
Because it would still be the case in a DVD record. It's still, you don't do an enhanced 505 because that's not how that works. It would
Right.
have like dozens possibly of 700 fields. Generally with books, because I do tend to catalog things that are like books of essays, it's just an enhanced 505.
Yeah.
With no corresponding 700s. Now, if there was an author I particularly wanted, I might add the 700 just so it collates with his other work. Usually that's not stuff you guys get as well, though.
No, but that's actually some good advice there, that if there is somebody that is included in there that you do want to highlight, maybe you do add them as a 700.
Like a local, it's usually someone local. So if the only reason you bought it is because someone in your community has a chapter in it on something, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down for that.
But otherwise,
yeah, like just an example is like we got a book a while back of like, it was like a Stonewall collection with just tons and tons of different authors writing essays or contributing small pieces. And it's like, if you do a 700 for each of those, like that
You're
top
creating
bar
an
is,
index, yeah.
it's huge. Whereas the 505, I can still do that like delimiter R. And then if you search for Jason Reynolds, I would put in the 700, but that's a terrible example. But you could then search Jason Reynolds and it still shows up. It's just not a paragraph in that top author bar.
Another example would be our book before kindergarten, 1,000 book bags. We've got 10 authors per bag. They don't necessarily need to be included at the top of the record that the teachers pull out. Many of those are popular authors and they can be found in many different ways using and 505 those bags. but I really can't imagine the necessity for putting them in a 700 simply because the authors can be found in other ways. I don't know. You might say the same thing about the actors, but I think at the time of the discussion on the DVDs, it was people are interested in a particular actor, or they can't remember the actor, but they can remember the movie. And so it was a fast reference for who the stars were of the film. I don't know if the discussion is that we force people to do a 700 field and not a 505 enhanced, or if they want both.
Largely, I just wanted to get an idea of what overall everyone else thought was the best option, just because I didn't want to keep doing it. And then everyone's like, how come all of these don't have 700s? I'm like, sorry, guys.
Is it an RDA thing?
Don't make me look stuff up in RDA.
Is it a best practices thing?
I'm looking, what I've been seeing, and I've been searching on OCLC limiting to what the Library of Congress has done, and they just do an enhanced 505. I don't see them transcribing a lot of authors in 700 fields on things that have been recently cataloged.
And I think it probably comes down to cataloger's judgment and cataloger's preference.
I mean, it sounds like if there's a distinct reason to have the 700s, cool. But the enhanced 505 is fine.
I would agree with that.
I like that answer. But I also appreciate seeing for the patrons, seeing the actors up across the top with the movie also. I think that was a good decision.
I guess I just have one more question. I sometimes see books where someone has started transcribing all of the authors into 700 and then halfway through they've stopped. Is that a situation where we finish it or delete it?
Is there information as an enhanced 505 as well?
I always add it. I've been adding it into the 505 and then deleting it because it's easier to add it to the 505 than to complete it typically.
I will say, I don't know that I've seen what you just said, but I will say that when I am adding 700s for a CD, like a compilation CD or where there's a bunch of guest artists, sometimes, especially if it's guest artists, sometimes I can't find a heading for some of these obscure artists. So I just don't put a 700 for them. Is it possible that that's what's happened with yours?
It almost sounds like someone's really misinterpreting the old rule of 3.
Yeah, no, it's all on books. Like an example, it's like I had a little collection of like frozen graphic novel stories, and someone had gone through like the first like half of the book and put in all the 700s for the different authors, and then they hit halfway through and they just.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If it's that many different authors, they're probably obscure people and they may not have authorized headings. So they may not have been able to be found.
But if you're going to take the time to do them, then you need to establish headings for all of them.
Yeah, but someone may not have done that.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example of a book where nobody cares about any of that.
Exactly.
Stuff.
Right.
But that's my question is like, if we run into that situation, do we finish that 700 and establish the headings or do we just delete it?
I would recommend against doing that.
Okay.
Because
I did go through and establish headings for that Frozen one, and it was a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Try not to delete things that are accurate. If the 700 fields were accurate, then I don't know that I would have.
Yeah, I wouldn't delete things.
I would agree with that.
But I wouldn't add things. Unless you want to.
Probably overlay it with another record where they didn't. A sensible record where someone didn't do that. Because it makes it confusing, because then you have to check, is the reason these names not here because there's no authorized heading for them? It's And again, for a Disney book, really?
Seriously.
Yeah, I guess my question is that just, so do we just leave them on there? Because like that's an incomplete record like that.
But incomplete is, I mean, even if it's incomplete, it still has more than basics. So I would be inclined to, if they went to the trouble to put it there, I would be inclined to leave it as opposed to take it out. That doesn't mean I'm going to take the extra time to add the rest of them.
Kudos to you for wanting it to be a complete record. Absolutely. I don't argue that at all, but I think most of my records, I would admit they probably are incomplete. If I'm starting from scratch, I'm doing the best I can, and I'm not saying that it is a totally complete record, because there's always more that could be.
I was going to say, there's no such thing as a truly complete record.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. It sits wrong for me, but I'm just one person.
No, it's annoying.
It doesn't. Yeah.
And I think that's a typical cataloger. We want it to be a total package. We want it to be right. That's good. That's a very important aspect of a cataloger's brain, to want to have all of the stuff in there. But if it's not wrong, if it's not inaccurate information, I'm not talking about that it may not be complete, but if it's not an error, if it's not wrong information, I would hesitate to delete it. That's just my uninformed opinion too. I don't know.
So is this something that we can potentially put on the listserv and just like remind people to either do all of it or do none of it? Just I guess I just really hesitate at the idea of just leaving something half done simply because it takes too much time to finish.
And it throw out there that when we add those authorized headings, we will pay for those via Marchive. Yeah. So the 700 fields, if we add a ton of those go to Marchive, we pay per record. So if it's not something we care about, personally, I don't think it should be in the record.
That is a very practical considerations. Thank you, Jocelyn.
But that's also completely subjective. I don't care about all these people who worked on this Frozen book, but some of you might make a good argument that information is needed. But I'm just throwing that out there.
But that can go into an extended 5.0, which is what I did.
Right.
Like I think you can still have it in the record, but.
Exactly, but we don't pay because even once we get an authority file, we have that maintenance of that authority file. If that person changes their name, if they change something else, that's every time I look at like authorized entry points on records, I kind of see dollar signs. Because
so Jocelyn, are you saying that if it's half done like that and it is reflected in the 505, it should be removed from the 700?
I would, but I would have done that anyway because I just.
I was going to say, I'm with Jocelyn.
I have no skin in this game other than I don't like to spend money. And I do like good records, but we're talking about good records no matter what. These are good records.
But they would have already been paid for if that's an existing 700 field.
No, we haven't sent it away in over a year, so they haven't.
A lot of new stuff hasn't, but even if we already paid for it, that's still an authority file we have to maintain. So as long as we have that name in our database, we have to get the updates for that Bob has to put in. So if it's something, my thing is if it's information that we really don't need, I just don't see the need of putting it in the record that way if it can go in another way.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we have books in our Indiana Children's Collection where we have it just because an Indiana person wrote this book on some random nonfiction. And it's like, yeah, I do kind of need that name, or they did the artwork. Usually it's like an illustrator.
Yeah, I'm on board with that. It's just like, it bothers me when I have like a book of essays and someone's gone halfway through, and the idea of leaving half of those authors in there, but then saying we're not going to go.
Also, no one's going back and checking that record to see if any of those authors are now authorized.
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like in this case, it's Emma, use your best discretion.
Yeah. I mean, I think the whole 505 versus 700 is a cataloger's judgment
Yeah.
ultimately anyway. It just seems that most are using the enhanced 505 because I think that's kind of a newer option with Mark.
Mhm.
I don't think that's always been there. You can do fancier things with the 505 now.
Oh yeah.
So does that answer your question, Emma? Can we move on?
I mean, it kind of does. It doesn't really tell me what to do, but
If you like doing an enhanced 505, do an enhanced 505. I don't think anyone's going to mess with that.
no, I mean, it doesn't tell me what to do with the remaining 700s in those half done instances. Which is the main question that my catalogers and I have is what do we do record that has half done 700s?
I think that comes down to cataloger's judgment
Yeah,
too.
it's cataloger's judgment.
Okay.
If it becomes an issue, we will know.
That,
We
yeah.
can discuss it then.
That does answer it. Thank you.
Okay, so let's move on to Wonder Books. Britta, did you have your procedures? And I think you wrote some last time, maybe?
I do not. I did not get to it.
Good. We don't have time to talk about it anyway. Would someone like to table that?
Can I table it?
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Go for it.
Motion to table.
Thank you,
I'll
Britta.
second it.
And thank you, Emma, or Josephine, whoever. All in favor of tabling Wonder Books procedure, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Britta was the one who wanted to talk about them anyway, so if she wants to table them, I'm all for it. So the Dolly Imagination Library, Jocelyn.
Okay, I did this last time and you guys couldn't see anything, so I pasted it into chat, so you should be able to see it.
It still says Scholastic.
It doesn't have like, why is it not showing my edits here? Let me. Okay.
Oh, it's magically changed.
Does it now just say Scholastic and Dolly Imagination books?
Yes.
It does.
Okay. So basically what I did was I just rolled the Dolly stuff into the Scholastic section. And we didn't have examples of how the ISBN should look, so I did include a couple of those. But
Okay.
it's basically the same wording we already had, just including the Dolly books.
At the risk of adding more issues, and I've not had this problem, but should this section include Cole's books?
Barnes and Noble, yeah, Kohl's.
Yeah, do they, but are they the same? Are they like Scholastic where they're the same thing? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've ever I mean, obviously I don't hear, but I don't know.
I didn't know if Christy,
Charles
since she
says
jumped right in there, if she
They're
knew.
the same.
I
apart
think
from
Kohl's
size.
books are basically like the Dolly Imagination Station ones.
This with
they're
the
just-
Kohl's logo.
They have the Kohl's Care, yeah, Kohl's
Branding thing
Kohl's
on it,
Kids
yeah.
Care logo on them.
I never found any difference with them. I am finding a few minute differences with the Target books, and they're driving me out of my mind. We have a Target shopper. Yeah. They'll add an author statement interview. They'll add one poem at the end.
Yeah, I think targets are like have bonus material, which
Yeah.
is not helpful for us.
It's not a bonus for me.
Nope.
But Kohl's, I think, are identical, like the Scholastic, the other paw prints, that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Kayla, you might be right. That I'm not sure about that. I feel like I've seen Cole's books records, but I don't remember if they're in the procedures guide or not.
Cole is not mentioned.
Okay.
So we can add it.
Are you doing that now?
Scholastic.
I mean, I'm sorry. Might as well do it all at once.
Is it called Cole's Cares or just Cole's?
I think it's Cole's Kids Care or something like that.
Please tell me that's not all K's.
Oh, probably. I would.
Can you see the changes as I'm typing them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No, it's actually a C on the care part.
That's how I typed it. I was not going to put it in there if it wasn't.
It's Cole. I think it's Cole's Cares Kids.
Yeah.
With,
Cares Kids.
yeah, with a C. So no all K's.
Kohl's with an apostrophe, Cares, children's books. Let me see if that's correct.
Yeah, so I would probably just have Kohl's Cares.
I'm looking at the scan of the back of them right now, and it just says Cole's Cares.
Like
And it's a special edition printed for Cole's.
That's what Mary's has in there.
Mhm.
Kohl's Cares Kids is the book collection. But I think having Kohl's Cares just on its own without that is enough to describe it completely.
Yes, I would think so.
Did we have an example for the Coles one? An ISBN example or just the two?
I can give you the one or read you the one that I'm looking at.
Okay.
978 05930 91913.
Thanks for doing that, Jocelyn.
Yes, thank you. Would anyone like to motion to approve these edits?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Christy. A
I need
second?
There's a second from Charles.
Okay. All in favor of approving the procedures to on Dolly Imagination Library and Cole's books, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Thank you, Jocelyn.
Mhm.
Okay, so we ought to be able to move on to Ruth and the training manual.
So I haven't done a whole lot more with the three, well, that's not true. I guess since December I have done. The training manual, I went ahead and down in the training manual chapter links have linked the 3.7 that is always in process if you want to take a look at that. And then you can, if you see things that need to be changed, some of them are obvious, like if they're screenshots, you can comment on those and there is that. I'm not sure that we need to split this up like we did with 3.4 for everybody to look at them, since most of the changes do have to do with either added features or updated screenshots. So if you can just comment and I can get in those and you guys can go about your work unless there's something specific that you see that needs to be added and you want to take that on. Or you can also just put a comment in there saying this needs to be added. And so, and then I can take it up, however you'd like to do that. That is not the manual that is linked on the website right now. I wanted to give you all whatever time frame you would like to have before I change the link from the 3.4 manual to the 3.7 manual.
Did you want to give a due date on that so that we are inclined to do it?
Yes. How far out? May 31st.
Okay,
That will get us just prior to the next meeting.
fantastic. And and May 31st, you're talking about for the training manual, not the acquisitions training manual.
That's correct.
Okay.
For the cataloging training manual, yes.
Yes.
So then as part of that, I also have been working on putting together the acquisitions training manual. I include that in this committee meeting because there is overlap, of course, between acquisitions and cataloging. And there are only a few libraries right now that are using acquisitions, but you may consider it coming. We're going to do some training in April and May on actually implementing it at your library. It seems super big in front of my face. This is not completely done. I have a few more things to do down here in administration. You can see these things that are empty still need to be filled. And then there are a few things right here at the end that I need to do for the actual workflow.
Darn it, yes, I did forget. I will do that, thank you. I have not looked at my email.
I'm not sure what's going on.
Yes, I'm glad you did too. Thanks, bye-bye.
I think someone's got their mic on. And a nearby conversation.
Say, I don't know what's happening. So this, I'd hoped to have it done, but I do plan to have it done by the end of March. And then that will, I'll open it up. Do you want to, as a committee, also look at this? I know this is kind of a tangential thing, but would you like access to comment once I have it fully populated? You can say no if you want to. Or would you like to see individuals?
I think I personally would, since we use it here.
Yep.
And I or my clerk can maybe look through it. But I don't know if anybody else does.
Sure.
That sounds like a no. I hear a lot of crickets.
No, I was wondering if you wanted the cataloging committee to kind of, for the acquisitions to be in your purview or not. Is there going to be somebody else?
I think that may actually be a conversation to have first with the executive committee and then with the cataloging committee, depending on the executive committee's decision, to have that conversation at the next meeting.
Because, you know, some of the circulation things involve us, we involve them, but we have separate committees. So I don't know if there are enough people in the acquisitions to have their own, those involved in acquisitions would like to be on their own committee, form something that they could talk about common issues.
Yes, I think it would be more of just a topic for patron services as opposed to an oversight, because it's much more intrinsically involved with catalog. While there are some holds issues and things.
Yeah, I meant that they might prefer to have their own. I don't know how many are involved in that, but I'm just saying you've got patron, you've got cataloging, and maybe you need to establish acquisitions. So I
So
don't-
Anita, do you think that it would be appropriate to get feedback from executive committee first on that?
I don't know about that, but I can tell you honestly, I don't know enough about acquisitions to have any information to share about it.
And that's valid too, because we haven't had the training yet.
I'm interested in it, but they chose not to go with that a couple of years ago here at Kendallville.
Yeah, and it's different now. It's different now. It is in the process of becoming different now.
And we're going to have a different director, so I may be more involved in it, but I don't know. At this time, I don't know, and I don't have anything to add to acquisitions.
Okay. So what I'm also then hearing is, Monica, you would like to have eyes on the manual, but as a cataloging committee at this point to not worry about it. Does that sound?
That's what it sounds like.
That's my vote.
And I suppose if anybody changes their mind, they can always email you or.
Seriously, please, yes. I will
Yes.
100% take as much feedback as anybody wants to
Yes.
give.
Okay, so you done there?
Yep.
Okay, so we can move on to new business. First thing on new business, Charles sent an email to the committee a few weeks ago. Everyone hopefully saw that. Charles, do you want to talk about that? Oh.
I can go ahead and read what Charles wrote. And you did type super fast. I think most of this has already been hashed out in the discussion via email on the committee listserv. It sounded like we had already come down on the side of if there's a difference in one of the fundamentals like page count and it's not a next novel excerpt, it requires a new record. I was running into instances on the listserv where we were finding minute differences between printings that would have traditionally required a new record, but I was worried at the time that publishers were updating books more between printings, which was creating differences on the record where the reason for the difference was less obvious to catalogers. It feels like we just need to be more conscious of the printing affecting content and subfield zine records for future printings that have created considerable differences like page count. Maybe if we have a printing that isn't the first printing, we could note that in the record in a 500 so people know why there's a different record.
Is this potentially something we could use that 595 field to like reference wow, sorry, my brain just completely blanked there. To reference like
This record exists
Question.
because
Yeah, there's a question.
verified that this is different from database ID. Just like we do when I say like, you know, I'm a page count verified or something, just.
I mean, I think that's appropriate.
Because I think I definitely like the idea of marking in a record why it has a different record so that we can have a way to figure out, is this something that can.
my frustration with this is, and I'm sure, is that from a patron side, they don't care. They don't care about this. And it's cluttering up their search results and these things look exactly the same. And the content is essentially exactly the same, except for maybe there are some more pages than there were or less pages than there were. And from our descriptive side, it makes complete sense to have those separate records. But from a patron discovery point, it's just annoying and cluttered. And they don't care about that.
Maybe parts, like just add a part to like.
That, I mean, that's going to do the same thing though. That's going to still have, and it's not the use of parts anyway.
Yeah.
But that's going to still make this overly complex. So.
That's basically my issue with the Target books. Although Target does have additional information usually, but maybe it's one page of an artist's picture or something. If our purchaser buys one and I have to, and I do a brand new mark record, our one book is sitting there in the catalog all by itself.
That's right. And unless somebody's putting meta holds on it, they're not going to be targeting that.
75 others that were not a target book, but following the cataloging rules that needs to happen, because this is a major difference, which is what I think Charles mentioned in one of his earlier emails, or somebody mentioned this basic difference of page count has always been an issue. But for the patrons, I guess not for the patrons so much, because there may be a patron that is just rabidly wanting the Target extra feature or the Target extra
They are, Anita.
recipe. There's one extra recipe included in that Target book. But my library / purchaser is the one that is going to pay the penalty because their item is there by itself. The DVD is off by itself because it has something added that is unique. But it is unique, so it needs a new mark record. But we are combining in this consortium where now how many people are going to get how many libraries are going to get a circulation on that unique DVD and that unique Target book?
What's the pagination different? Are we talking just a few pages generally with this issue?
It could be difference of 1 page or 30 pages for
See, a 30 page to me, that's a no-brainer. That's a different record.
Right.
When we're talking about, less than
Yeah,
5
plus
or
minus 2 or 3
yeah,
pages.
One of the first things that we got into this on was a comment from the author on subsequent number 5 printing of a first edition. And because they had something besides the author comment at the end that added another page. And one library was just adamant that needed to be a different mark record because it was a different book.
So I
Does
guess
that benefit the patron?
my question for everyone would be, if you weren't in a consortium, how many of you would just put those on the main record? Like, honestly, would you create a separate record for the difference of 1 page?
What
or
is
2
the
pages?
True Confessions? Because
No, seriously, I
talk
mean,
to a cat too, and she has to verify the match points. She doesn't have anybody in her library to create a new mark record. What is she supposed to do?
Right. And from seeing migrating libraries and what those catalogs look like beforehand, no, they're not bothering it. They're importing something that is close, describes the thing, and they're using it.
I'm not willing to I think it's a major step to drop the standards for the cataloging throughout the consortium. I don't think it should.
But this isn't, so that match point there for pagination is flexible.
Sorry, I was talking over you.
Anita, that's already one of those. So with the required match points, there are exceptions even among the required match points, but pagination is one that does have some flexibility in it, where we tend to definitely go towards to have people check their pagination to see. But then there is the flexibility that if all of your content is the same, everything else is, and you are within, same with size, you're within a standard kind of deviation, that you can use that.
Just planning to tell her that nobody in the consortium is going to kick her out. Do the best that you can until you have a cataloger that comes in there, because they have to attach books to
Something.
catalog.
Yep.
My concern is that if this is happening, and my understanding is they're reusing the same ISBN and they're reissuing it with slightly different
Oh, yeah.
paginations. So
Yeah.
if that's the trend for publishing, we're going to see more libraries coming in who have got them all on the same record.
Also covers, like the Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel books
Mhm.
went through a new cover series. I know this because I'm a huge fan. Same ISBN.
They just got new cover art.
Yeah, and a new edition statement.
Mhm.
And I think with the push, I'm for reducing some of the stringency, just since especially ultimately cataloging is going to push more towards bib frame, which is more
Right.
anyway.
And isn't it possible some of the like the printing changes, like the couple pages, could just be the printing was moved down a bit on the page, or which caused the extra?
Yeah,
mean-
sometimes they just change the layout a little bit and it
Yeah.
causes
Right.
everything to shift.
And it
Yeah.
shifts yeah.
I'm interested to the one that you guys said there was difference between like 30 pages. Was that the actual story? Was that something at the end of the book? Because we had that issue with the James Patterson book where he would always add like excerpts of his other books, and we decided that does not count towards the official pagination. So was that like 30 page thing, something like that, or was it actually?
I think it was just an example of a number.
Okay.
Jocelyn, is that correct? You're just coming up with 30 pages as an
Oh
example.
no, that wasn't my example. That was someone else.
That was me, because
Okay.
they will change the upcoming book. They'll change the preview to a different book from the author when they do another printing or something.
Oh,
But
okay.
the initial issue was, it was still a first edition. Clearly, both books were in the first edition, but it was a different page number, and Charles ran that down. I mean, it was a different printing of the first edition.
Well, that makes sense. That I've seen that before. And those first chapters of the next book, they can sometimes go to 2-3 chapters.
Yes.
Mhm.
They can be very long.
Could we potentially, and I don't know enough about this, I guess, to really make a statement, but I'm going to make one anyway. Could we potentially just stop adding 500s about that extra content so that the record is just more reflecting the book?
Well, I think if you don't make some kind of notation, then you're going to continue to get queries through the listserv. On
That's
my
true.
copy
Yeah.
has 591 pages, and yours has 593 pages.
I was saying maybe you add to that 500 field that says this printing includes.
It's still important to put as much information about the item in the
Right.
record as possible.
That's a good idea.
I think it might be worth trying to see how other libraries have approached this, what their policies have been. We can find
Yeah.
online documentation. I don't know how like Georgia Pines deals.
They
with
have
this.
centralized cataloging, Jocelyn.
Yeah, I know, but they have to have a policy for this.
Right,
For
right.
those catalogers have to have rules for how they handle this.
And also Sitka would be a good place to look,
Yeah.
since they have significantly more disparity between their libraries than we could ever even dream of. So, and Charles makes a comment here, if we get rid of the notations for readers' guides and such, I don't think that's a good direction. I think we're in general agreement about that.
But I have observed the cataloging committee for probably 8 years now, and I think you guys are doing a really good job of trying to determine what is the best match, what is good, what if forward steps for as we combine thousands and thousands and thousands of items with other libraries coming in and new books coming in, and the different way that books are published now, that if it's an electronic publishing, they can just run that through a printer. And I think it's invariable that pages are going to change at the end of that run, because they can have a point size different margin or the font enough to change that few pages by the time that book prints out there automatically. So I appreciate your standards, but as we get more and more books, I think you're all seeing that you're having to back out a little bit of the fine details on some of these things. Just minutely.
And it is always a balance between what makes things discoverable and searchable, and it includes high quality.
High quality.
Yes, just quality as in general. So there's always that balance there. And this committee does do a great job of finding that, or doing the work to hopefully uncover that balance.
Because we do want to be accurate.
Yeah, we don't want to do like crazy, disparaging from regular rules. But in all honesty, I think a lot of libraries are probably doing what we're kind of sounding like we want to do. And that's like not care so much that there's a 2-page difference between a book that has the same ISBN and same title, but is just a slightly different printing.
I'm in agreement with you, Jocelyn. I just don't want to, I don't want to.
Right. It's easier to have hard and fast rules. And this would be one that's why I want to look and see how other libraries have addressed this. Maybe they have well articulated rules for how people should approach these.
Jocelyn, are you willing to do some of that research?
I don't want you to think that I just throw in the towel and that I'm not trying to be accurate. I don't want you to think that I'm just attaching books to any old record. We are trying to be accurate.
Jocelyn or Josephine has a comment in here. Doesn't even OCLC have an allowance for page numbers matching for input of new records?
I believe they do. I don't think a difference in pagination always requires a new record. I have to look and see the minutia of what that means.
And you're right, Charles. The tricky part is always articulating the nuance.
But my concern is also if it is an issue with ISBNs, we're really relying on people to remember to Z out one of those. Because if they don't do that and we run a dedupe, all that work for creating another record is going to go away anyway.
Right.
So where does this leave us?
We're looking into it, Monica.
Okay.
Looking into this.
We're going to keep on going as we have, but we're going to look into it.
Okay. Charles, does that suffice for you?
Cool.
Okay. I would agree with that, Charles. Overdrive records with physical holdings.
Okay,
Which
so
is a
yesterday, I didn't want to lead with it. It occurred to us as IDL was launching that we needed to remove all of the EIDC and IDDC. We thought about it before, but then we're like, oh, that literally needs to happen like right now. And so Bob removed all of the records from the Evergreen catalog, the existing Overdrive records, with the exception of, I believe it was 200 and, I'm sorry, like about just over 2,000 holdings records that were attached to 1,500 bibliographic records for people had attached holdings to the Overdrive records. So Jocelyn very kindly looked at the stuff in the bucket that I created for that. And where are you with that? I know you had a status update, so.
Well, that was literally right before I left yesterday. So I plan on working on it tomorrow.
And I will be working on it as well.
There were things in that bucket that aren't Overdrive records though. So
Right.
I might need to get with Bob.
Just see what he's doing, how he's gathering that.
But some definitely are.
Right.
Is that something that you two are doing, or you need our help?
We're just doing it.
We're just going to do it, get it done.
And then the other part of that is after IDL stabilizes, I'm not sure exactly, I haven't checked it this morning. I did hear
It's still
from,
building.
Yeah.
there's now a redirect in the banners for all of the consortium. So at least it's saying, hey, your collection is moving to this. Here's the link for it. So, but patron information has not come over yet. So loans and holds are still, and they sent an email out this morning that that's something they're still going to get to. And I think I think some of the bigger consortiums haven't been done yet.
So is the bibliographic records for the EIDC are done. The bibliographic records for the IDDC were not done last time I checked. For the smaller consortium, I don't know if they're merging them as they load them. I don't know. This has not been really handled in the way that we tend to think about moving large amounts of data. So yeah, they're new. My hearts go out to them. It will stabilize. But once it does stabilize, then Bob is going to do a full extract from that new catalog Overdrive, and then do the work required to add the 856s and ingest them into our catalog. And then
when he does that, those will only be, those will not include the metered access titles. Is that correct?
It will be the same standard he used previously.
And it did include metered access. He gets reports showing what we've lost access to, and he does get rid of those.
Oh, great. That's good. I didn't realize that.
With regard to the questions in chat about holds, this is my supposition. This has not been verified, but knowing the way that data matches up, that they are not making the connections between patron account and bibliographic records until the bibliographic database is completely populated with all the records that are supposed to be in there. So then they can attach those checkouts and those holds at that point. It is a drag. This is not how this should have happened.
That's not
but it's how it's happening. That boat's already left.
For Sandra, I've been able to log into it, but
I have as well.
Yeah, I haven't with my own library card, and I've had patrons not be able to log in with their library cards. So
they have to remember their password.
I don't have a password.
Yeah, we don't. My library doesn't require a password for.
Yeah. I know I had trouble trying to log in via Libby, but I haven't tried doing it just directly from the lap or from the computer.
Oh, I haven't done Libby at all.
It could be an app issue.
I did it with Libby.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I put in a ticket, and Bob just suggested that I try to contact somebody at Overdrive. So
there is a link on their site that, thank you, Kayla just successfully logged in. There's a link on their site about authentication issues and should have a contact there.
Okay.
To put in a ticket directly with Overdrive.
Okay, I will do that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I changed that.
Mary Kay, I know you said earlier that you wanted to talk about Overdrive, and your comment here says holds. Is that the only thing you needed to talk about, or did you have another question or problem?
I personally would like to give them a project manager for Christmas, but
Christmas will be too late.
I was going to say maybe in their Easter basket.
If it makes you feel any better and you have angry patrons, just remind them of how massive this database is going to be once it's built. It's already got over 100,000 titles in it. And I don't think they're even halfway done. So it is frustrating from that end, but they're going to have so much more access than they had before. Small silver lining.
It makes me jealous. I don't actually have, so I live in Indianapolis and my library is IndiePL, who can't participate in the IDL. I'm like, oh, but wait, what about me? Where before it's like, yeah, IndiePL. And then I'm like, oh, crap.
Yeah, I was looking at it, like, because I live in Indy too. So I was like, oh, yay, I still have two.
I'm jealous. Maybe I'll just come live with you, Britta. No, that doesn't work that way. I still would not work at Thorntown.
Okay. Well, I guess that's all we have to say about Overdrive.
That's all I have to say about it.
Okay. Combo packs. Britta sent an email to the committee. Britta?
Yeah, I just wanted to double check, and I think Charles explained it pretty well for me. When I was looking at our mark templates, I was figuring we probably need a combo pack one. And as I was cataloging other movies coming in, I noticed that the combo packs were listing the 300 as like 2 video discs instead of separating the Blu-ray and the DVDs. And so I went digging and wanted, because I know we recommend the subfill 3 in our procedures, and I looked at OLAC, and they have, I think, the 2 video discs. So I just wanted to confirm what we prefer. And then, like I said, Charles kind of explained, because we have more distinction between the Blu-ray and the DVDs because we have parts and things like that. So keeping with the 2 different 300 fields is preferred. So I think now, since my question was answered already, maybe we remind catalogers that when they bring in records and they're editing, to change the 300 fields from the 2 video discs of combo pack records, to change it with the subfield 3s
and to duplicate the 300.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's already reflected in the procedures guide, right?
Yeah, it's already, yes. All of
So
it
it
was
just be a
maybe just a
reminder.
reminder.
And you're okay, Britta, with, I mean, because I've seen records both way as well. And Charles made a good point about the parts and stuff.
Yeah.
But in fact, I think I've had Circ staff talk about the fact that says there's 2 discs in the 300. So I've seen what you're talking about. Are you okay with that? With keeping it how we're doing it?
Keeping it like the subfield 3s?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine.
And so as someone working on parts and not having the physical items in front of me, that is invaluable information.
And I think probably, like I said, to my Circ staff, it's probably helpful so that they can, because we do split hours out. And so if an item doesn't say 2 discs and only says 1, that's going to be less confusing for them. Okay, so I made a note. Maybe I will send a reminder email to the list, Britta, about doing it that way.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Okay. As far as templates, I think Ruth already, that's in your folder that you shared, right?
It is, and there's a link directly to that one. Oh,
okay.
Never mind, okay. It's linked incorrectly, but I'll fix that link.
Okay.
And I've made it so that anybody can actually edit it, because it needs full editing as opposed to just suggesting it. So
okay,
I will.
And that will have, I assume, have the same deadline as our others, which you said end of April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Anything else about combo packs?
None from me.
Okay, that brings us to announcements. Does anybody have anything else to say? Next meeting's June 2nd at 10 o'clock. Still waiting on location and Zooming and such.
And just a reminder about the upcoming cataloging freezes. We'll have more information. They'll of course go out to the lists as well. But the cataloging freeze for Porter County migration will start sometime on the 17th. And then we'll get the all clear when the stuff is loaded. We anticipate that though being a full 3-day cataloging freeze and a full freeze.
Okay, thank you. And you said the dedupe one would be a full freeze as well, right?
The dedupe will be a full freeze as well. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And that will be sometime in early April.
Okay. Okay, unless anybody has anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, way to go, Mary Kay. That's exciting.
Oh, kayaking regatta. Maybe that can be our location.
Yeah, you can Zoom from there, Mary Kay.
Oh, I love it. You're so bad at getting old.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Britta. Do I have a second? Oh, Charles seconded. Thank you, Charles. Okay, well then I will see you all, except for Mary Kay, on June 2nd.